I sat up straighter, my mind racing. Synertech was one of the biggest competitors to my former company. How did they know I had been fired? The termination had only happened 3 days ago. How did you get my information? I asked. Amara laughed softly. Let's just say we pay attention to talent in this industry. People talk, Chikwudi. And what they say about you is impressive. Can we meet tomorrow morning? Our CEO is very interested in speaking with you personally. I agreed, giving her a time and location. After hanging up, I stared at my phone in disbelief. Minutes after being escorted out of my old company like a criminal, a major competitor was recruiting me. The irony was almost poetic. The next morning, I walked into Synertech's sleek office building wearing my best suit and carrying a flash drive in my pocket. The CEO, Mr. Adebayo, greeted me personally, a tall man in his 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Chikwudi, thank you for coming on short notice, he said, shaking my hand firmly. I've heard excellent things about your work, but I've also heard some concerning things about your former employer. Why don't you tell me what really happened? I explained everything, the sudden termination, the humiliating welcome party, the false accusation of sabotage. Mr. Adebayo listened intently, his expression growing darker with each detail. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and laughed bitterly. I'm not surprised, he said. We've suspected Kareem of misconduct for years. He's been underbidding us on contracts in ways that don't make financial sense unless someone is cooking the books. But we've never had proof. Until now, perhaps. I pulled out the flash drive from my pocket. I have documentation of budget irregularities, fraudulent expense reports, and evidence of fund embezzlement spanning 2 years. I collected it as insurance. Now I'm willing to share it if you can help me prove that I didn't sabotage that system, and if you can help me make sure Kareem faces consequences for what he's done. Mr. Adebayo's eyes gleamed with interest as he took the flash drive. Let's talk numbers, he said. We'll triple your previous salary. You'll start as senior operations consultant with a path to director within a year. And yes, we'll help you bring down Kareem. But I need to know, are you ready for this fight? Because once we start, there's no going back. I didn't hesitate. I'm ready, I said. The anger and humiliation from yesterday had crystallized into cold determination. Kareem had declared war when he decided to destroy my reputation. Now I was going to finish it. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into my new role at Synertech while quietly watching my old company implode from a distance. Through contacts who still worked there, I heard the stories. Zara was struggling badly. Critical projects were missing deadlines. Files were getting corrupted because she didn't understand the backup protocols. 3 major clients had called to complain about system errors and poor communication. The entire operations team was working overtime trying to compensate for her inexperience, but the damage was spreading. And Kareem? He was protecting Zara fiercely, insisting she just needed time to adjust, refusing to admit he had made a catastrophic hiring decision. But the cracks were showing. Employees were starting to openly question his judgment. Some of the more experienced team members had quietly started looking for new jobs. The stability I had maintained for 6 years was unraveling in a matter of weeks, and everyone except Kareem could see it. I decided it was time for my first strike. I had a video clip saved on my phone, recorded secretly during a particularly ugly team meeting 6 months earlier when Kareem had berated the entire staff over a budget shortfall he had actually caused himself through his embezzlement. In the video, he lied directly about financial numbers, blamed employees for problems they hadn't created, and made several statements that directly contradicted reports he had given to the board. I edited the clip carefully, adding context and timestamps, then uploaded it anonymously to LinkedIn with a caption that read, "This is leadership at company name. You deserve to know the truth." The video went viral within hours. Industry professionals shared it. Former employees confirmed the behavior described. News outlets picked it up. By the next morning, the company's board of directors had called an emergency meeting. Kareem tried to claim the video was edited, taken out of context, a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. But the damage was done. Questions were being asked, serious questions about his management style, his decision-making, and the company's declining performance since my departure. In a panic, Kareem ordered the IT department to trace the leak. He was convinced someone inside the company had posted the video, and he wanted them fired immediately. But his paranoia led him to blame the wrong people. 2 innocent employees in the communications department who had nothing to do with it. He fired them on the spot, refusing to listen to their protests or check the evidence properly. The wrongful terminations triggered a mass morale collapse. People who had been uncertain about Kareem now openly hated him. The office culture turned toxic overnight. Then I received an unexpected message. It was from Zara, sent to my personal email address. Chikwudi, I know you have every reason to hate me, but I need help. Please. This place is falling apart, and I don't know what to do. Kareem won't listen. The team won't talk to me. I'm drowning. I stared at the message for a long time, conflicted. Part of me wanted to ignore her. She had taken my job, after all. But another part of me recognized something in her message. She wasn't the enemy. She was another victim of Kareem's manipulation. I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe far from both of our offices. Zara arrived looking exhausted and frightened, nothing like the confident woman who had given that speech at my welcome party. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I didn't know the full situation. Kareem told me you were retiring, that this was a smooth transition. I had no idea about the party, about the way they treated you. I would never have accepted the position if I'd known. She explained her story. She had been recruited hastily, promised training that never materialized, and thrown into a role she wasn't prepared for. Within days, she realized Kareem was using her as a cover, someone he could control, someone who wouldn't question his decisions the way I had. He's been moving money around, she whispered, changing reports. I've seen things that don't add up. I think he's stealing, but I don't have proof, and I'm terrified that if I say anything, he'll blame me for everything and destroy my career before it even starts. That's when I realized Zara could be the key to exposing everything. She had access to current systems and files that I no longer could reach. She could gather evidence from the inside while I worked from the outside. I'll help you, I told her. But I need you to help me too. I need you to document everything. Every instruction Kareem gives you, every financial irregularity you notice, every conversation where he admits to wrongdoing. Can you do that? She nodded eagerly, relief flooding her face. Yes, anything. I just want this nightmare to end. Over the next few weeks, Zara became my inside agent. She recorded conversations using her phone, took screenshots of suspicious financial transfers, saved emails where Kareem instructed her to falsify reports. The evidence piled up quickly, far more than I had collected in 2 years because she had access I had never been granted. Kareem trusted her because he thought she was weak and controllable. He had no idea she was documenting his every crime. In exchange for her help, I taught her how to stabilize the operation systems remotely, showing her the protocols and procedures I had developed. I didn't want innocent staff to suffer because of Kareem's war against me. Zara proved to be a quick learner once she had proper guidance, and within a week, some of the critical system errors stopped happening. Performance improved slightly, though not enough to save the company's reputation. The damage was too deep, too public. With Zara's evidence combined with my historical documentation, I compiled a comprehensive dossier. Hundreds of pages of proof showing systematic embezzlement, falsified reports, wrongful terminations, and financial fraud spanning 4 years. I organized it meticulously with timestamps, transaction records, audio files, and video evidence. Then I sent it anonymously to 3 members of the board of directors with a simple message. You trusted the wrong man. Here's proof. An internal investigation is recommended before this becomes a criminal matter. The board launched a silent investigation without telling Kareem. They brought in external auditors who began quietly reviewing financial records, interviewing employees confidentially, and examining the evidence I had provided. Kareem had no idea the walls were closing in. He was too busy preparing for a massive investor pitch, a last-ditch attempt to secure funding that would prove he still had control of the company and could turn things around. He had no idea that one of the potential investors attending the pitch was actually the lead auditor assigned by the board. The day of the investor pitch arrived. Kareem had prepared an elaborate presentation showing projected growth, successful projects, and financial stability, all of it based on falsified data. The conference room was packed with actual investors, board members, and senior staff. Zara sat in the back, her phone recording everything as I had instructed. Mr. Adebayo from Synertech was watching via public livestream the company had set up to appear transparent and confident. Kareem began his presentation with his usual arrogance, promising returns and growth that had no basis in reality. He was mid-sentence, describing the company's strong operational foundation, when the projection screen suddenly went black. Technical difficulties. As Kareem fumbled with the laptop, the lead auditor stood up. "Before we continue," the auditor said calmly, "I think everyone should hear something." He played an audio recording, Zara's voice asking Kareem about suspicious transfers, and Kareem's voice casually admitting to moving funds into personal accounts, laughing about how easy it was to hide money in operational budgets. The room went completely silent. Investors started standing up. Board members' faces turned red with fury. Kareem went pale, his mouth opening and closing without sound as he tried to process what was happening. This is taken out of context," he stammered. But the auditor played another clip and another, each one more damning than the last. Investors began walking out, some of them talking angrily on their phones to their legal teams. Executives were shouting questions at Kareem, demanding explanations. In a desperate move, Kareem pointed at Zara, his face twisted with panic and rage. "She's the one who's been sabotaging everything," he shouted. "She's incompetent. She's been making mistakes and trying to cover them up by blaming me. This is all her fault." But Zara had been preparing for this moment. She stood up slowly, her earlier fear replaced by calm determination. "No," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the chaotic room. "Everything wrong with this company traces back to you, Mr. Kareem. The financial fraud, the falsified reports, the stolen funds, it's all documented. You hired me because you thought you could control me, use me as your scapegoat. But I recorded everything. Every instruction you gave me to lie, every admission of theft, every threat. And I've already given it all to the board." The room erupted. Employees who had been silently suffering under Kareem's leadership began shouting their own stories of mistreatment and corruption. The HR director was frantically making phone calls. One board member demanded Kareem's immediate termination. Another called for criminal charges. Kareem tried to leave, but security blocked the exits. He was trapped in the room he had once controlled, watching his empire collapse around him in real time. In the chaos, someone from HR made a call to Synertech, apparently trying to poach talent or understand how their competitor was handling similar operational challenges. They ended up speaking with Mr. Adebayo, who casually mentioned that their senior operations consultant, Chukwudi Okonkwo, had been instrumental in stabilizing their systems. "You mean the guy Kareem fired?" the HR person asked in disbelief. Word spread through the company within minutes. The man they had humiliated and falsely accused was now thriving at their biggest competitor, while their own operations crumbled. The board called an emergency meeting that afternoon. They wanted to bring me back, they said. They would offer me Kareem's position, a significant raise, full control of operations, whatever it took to stabilize the company before it completely collapsed. They sent the offer through official channels, along with a formal apology for my unfortunate termination and the regrettable circumstances of my departure. I read their email twice, then burst out laughing. "No," I replied simply. "I'm happy where I am. Good luck fixing the mess you allowed to happen." Their desperation was almost satisfying, but not quite enough. I wanted everyone to know the full truth. Not just the board, not just the employees, but the entire industry. So I spent a weekend editing together a comprehensive video, 12 minutes long, titled, "The Truth They Hid After They Fired Me." The video showed everything. The timeline of my termination, the welcome party for Zara, the false sabotage accusation, the escort from the building. I included Zara's testimony describing how she was manipulated and used. I showed screenshots of Kareem's fraudulent expense reports and financial transfers. I played audio clips of him admitting to embezzlement and threatening employees. I explained the systematic corruption that had flourished under his leadership while the board looked the other way. And I ended with a simple message. This is what happens when companies prioritize loyalty over integrity, when they protect bad leaders instead of good employees. You deserve better. I uploaded the video to YouTube on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, it had 100,000 views. By Tuesday, it had gone viral, shared across LinkedIn, Twitter, and industry forums. News outlets picked it up. Business channels interviewed experts about corporate corruption. My former company's stock price dropped 15% in 2 days. The public outrage was massive and unrelenting. Comments flooded in from people sharing their own stories of workplace corruption and betrayal. I had touched a nerve that went far beyond my personal situation. On Wednesday morning, police arrived at the company headquarters with warrants to seize financial records. Kareem was suspended immediately, pending criminal investigation. They escorted him out of the building in front of staff, investors, and journalists who had gathered outside. Cameras flashed as he walked to a police car, his hands not in cuffs, but his face showing the same humiliation he had inflicted on me weeks earlier. The poetic justice of that moment was almost overwhelming. The board issued a formal apology to Zara, acknowledging that she had been placed in an impossible situation and praising her courage in exposing the corruption. They offered her proper training and a mentor, a fresh start in a different department where she could develop her skills without the weight of Kareem's schemes crushing her. She accepted, grateful to finally have the support she should have had from the beginning. She sent me a heartfelt message. "You saved my career and maybe my life. Thank you for seeing me as a person instead of just a pawn in your revenge. I'll never forget that." The company's board then did something I didn't expect. They issued a public apology to me, acknowledging the injustice of my termination and the false accusations made against me. They offered again to bring me back with a senior leadership position and a compensation package that would have been life-changing. But I had already made my decision. I sent a professional but firm response declining their offer. "I appreciate the apology," I wrote, "but I found a company that valued me before I had to prove my worth through public humiliation. I choose dignity over desperation." At Synertech, I was promoted to Director of Operations within 3 months of joining, faster than anyone in the company's history. Mr. Adebayo called me into his corner office on the day of the promotion to personally deliver the news. "You've revolutionized our operations," he said. "Efficiency is up 30%, client satisfaction is at an all-time high, and we've won contracts we never would have gotten without your expertise. But more than that, you've shown the industry what integrity looks like. That's worth more than any technical skill." I walked into my new office, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows, a mahogany desk with my name plaque already in place, a view of the Lagos skyline that took my breath away. I thought about that cardboard box of belongings I had carried out of my old company under security escort. I thought about the humiliation of watching strangers celebrate taking my job. I thought about Kareem's confident smirk as he destroyed my reputation. And I smiled. They had replaced me, thinking I was disposable. They had humiliated me, thinking I was weak. They had falsely accused me, thinking I had no recourse. But they had never expected me to rise higher, stronger, and more successful than I had ever been under their leadership. They had underestimated the power of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. 6 months after my termination, my former company was still struggling. Kareem was facing criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. 3 board members had resigned under pressure from investors. The company's reputation was damaged, possibly permanently. Meanwhile, Synertech was thriving, having overtaken them in market share and client satisfaction. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. I received occasional messages from former colleagues who had stayed at the company. Some apologized for not defending me during my escort out. Others asked for advice about whether they should leave too. I responded to everyone with grace and honesty. I harbored no ill will toward people who had been caught in Kareem's toxic culture. But I also made it clear that staying silent in the face of injustice comes with its own consequences. Zara and I stayed in occasional contact. She sent me updates about her progress, asking for advice when she faced challenges. I was happy to help. She had risked everything to do the right thing, and she deserved support. Within a year, she had become a competent manager in her own right, mentoring junior staff and building the kind of positive culture that Kareem had destroyed. Her transformation was proof that people can grow when given proper support instead of manipulation. Looking back on everything now, I understand that losing my job was the best thing that ever happened to my career. It forced me to leave a toxic environment I had tolerated for too long. It pushed me to fight for my own value instead of waiting for others to recognize it. It taught me that documentation and evidence matter more than loyalty when dealing with corrupt leadership. And most importantly, it showed me that justice, while sometimes slow, is possible if you're patient and strategic. The lesson I learned wasn't about revenge, though that's how some people interpreted my actions. It was about accountability. Kareem wasn't punished because I was vindictive. He was punished because he committed crimes and destroyed careers and deserved to face consequences. The system only worked because I had evidence, allies, and the courage to speak up despite the personal cost. That's not revenge. That's justice. Today, when I walk into Synertech's headquarters, I do so with my head high and my reputation intact. The whispers that followed me out of my old company have been replaced by respect earned through competence and integrity. The humiliation I felt watching Zara give that welcome speech has been replaced by satisfaction, knowing I helped expose corruption that could have destroyed many more careers. The anger I felt at Kareem's false accusations has been replaced by peace, knowing he's facing real consequences for his actions. My story went viral not because it was unique, but because it was universal. Everyone knows someone who has been pushed out of a job unfairly. Everyone has witnessed corrupt leadership being protected by complicit systems. Everyone has felt the powerlessness of being humiliated by someone in authority. My video resonated because it showed that fighting back is possible, that documentation matters, that allies can be found in unexpected places, and that justice, while imperfect, is worth pursuing. They fired me and threw a party for my replacement. But I'm the one who ended up with the better career, the vindication, and the satisfaction of knowing I stood up for what was right. Kareem is the one facing criminal charges. My old company is the one struggling to rebuild its reputation. And Zara is the one who learned that integrity matters more than blind ambition. The last time I drove past my old office building, I didn't feel anger or bitterness. I felt grateful. Grateful that Kareem's corruption was exposed before it hurt more people. Grateful that Zara found the courage to do the right thing despite the risks. Grateful that I landed somewhere that valued my skills and my integrity. And grateful that I documented everything, trusted my instincts, and refused to let injustice have the final word. They never expected I'd rise higher. But I did. And that's the sweetest victory of all.